Hello, and welcome to the Jaunty Mantis, a podcast of creative questions for curious gamers. I'm one of your hosts, Jesse.
And I am another of your hosts, Chris.
Hey, Chris, how's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. Got exercise for the first time in months today. Went for a little run, feeling good.
Oh,
Ideas
nice.
are flowing. It's great.
I watched the new Muppet Show, and for 30 minutes, everything was fine. It
Amazing.
was it was great. Um, well, as the ancient ritual informs demand, what have you been up to in RPGs lately?
Oh boy, we got to actually play a role play session of Traveler in my Sunday group. We had previously made characters and then fleshed out their ship, which is named Man Bites God.
Okay,
And so, yeah, they were taking possession of the vehicle, finding that one of their party was just already there, just kind of bumming around, living on the vessel.
nice.
Nobody knows how or why he got there ahead of them or who even told him. But they familiarized themselves with the ship, talked to the AI, had a couple of the characters revisit one of their events from their first terms to kind of flesh that out. Another player was completely enraptured with the trade system. I use their skill to generate all the trade tables that normally you do about a dozen rolls for. And she spent the whole session, deciding what cargoes to load up and where to take them.
Oh, cool.
And then Rad, the aforementioned ship bum, decided he needed smokes, a gun, and maybe a space motorcycle or something.
You got to have a
So
space motorcycle. It only
yeah,
makes sense.
he went on a small crime spree and rolled very well. He found something somewhat equivalent to Spike's Swordfish 2 from Cowboy Bebop,
Nice.
a converted racer with some guns on it. He did have to abduct the owner. And so we ended the session with him like flying into where their ship was just finally loaded. So hopefully next session we can start with a fun chase where the rest of that guy's gang is pursuing them as they try and reach the jump point.
You got to start with a little light abduction. Uh,
Yeah,
it's just the way to go. Cool.
you never know what's going to happen. So
Well, that
what have you
sounds
been up
fun.
to?
Um, well, I haven't got to do anything in Dragonlance since last time I talked about it on the podcast, but gearing up for next week, that should be a good time. And last night I ran another session of the vampire game, and a good time was had by all. It was pretty interesting. I've been trying to figure out like how to get more teeth into the morality system of the game.
Oh my God.
I
I'm
wasn't even
fully
trying
interested.
to do that. Oh my
Oh my
God.
God.
But here
You can
we
just end
go.
the episode there. That's a
Yeah.
winner.
Yeah, I just get a little bit more bite. I guess now I'm going to just lean into it
Hmm.
from the morality system because one of my favorite things about this fifth edition of Vampire the Masquerade is previous editions. I saw a thing on this. They were about resource management, and now it's more about like loss management. Um, so, like, stains are an important mechanic in the game. When you do things that are horrific or inhuman, like you can gain stains. And like we have a set of chronicle tenants that you create at session 0 that, like, hey, if you violate these tenants, you are going to take a big hit of stains.
Yeah.
Like, so, like, never kill the innocent is one of them. So far, they've been fairly good on that. I think they've only got like a body count of 2 people for innocence. And another one is like never submit. But we had a situation where they had an NPC tagging along with them, and she is a religious fanatic in the Church of Cain. I wish it was dedicated to the wrestler, but unfortunately, it's
I
the
went
Dark
to
Father
that
Cain, first vampire.
Warhammer Eldar god Kane.
Oh, Kayla Minsha Cain, the Lord of
Hmm.
Murder. That'd be
I
pretty
see you know
cool.
him.
I do. I know him well, and his mighty avatar. But yeah, so I had the situation where like so the Church of Cain is this like Gnostic religion where they're like the demiurge created the world that is basically fallen hell, and every
Hmm.
human that wanders through it is like a denizen of hell, like condemned there to just suffer.
Feels like that
And
some days.
Yeah, that is maybe that was a little too real, but and then Cain is the angel who will overcome the demiurge, and through following the teachings of Cain, you too are one of the chosen angels who are elevated above the denizens of hell. So yeah,
Okay.
it's some light vampire supremacist bullshit, and
Yeah.
they're lovely people. But this NPC that was with them, like they were doing a stealth run into this like shipping container yard slash like storage space looking for evidence on this other vampire, and they're like all like hiding from the security guards. And so I set up the situation where like they all successfully hide in the shadows from the security guard. They got vampire powers, and I'm like, Marilyn is tensed, like she's about to spring on this guy. What do you do? And they're like, oh, let her cook. I'm like, okay. So she jumps out and like just, brutally, savages and murders this security guard. And then I'm like narrating her picking up his dropped flashlight and like bludgeoning the neck so there's no visible bite marks anymore, and then like just coming back to them being like worth it, like. And
Yeah.
then we have another part later where the same thing's about to happen. I'm like, what do you do? And they're like, let her cook. And I'm like, okay. So she goes off, and I don't narrate this one, and she comes back all covered in gore, and I'm like, you guys are all going to need to take one stain. It's like,
Oh
but
yeah.
why? Like, why? I'm like, well, I telegraphed something bad was about to happen the first time, but maybe you couldn't actually know what it was going to be. And then she did it very clearly, did this, like murdered this guy, like while in your company. And then I set it up again, and you guys are like, just, let her go. So one stain for everybody, saying, hey, I don't think this is a good idea does not count as actually preventing it from happening. And they're like,
Yeah.
cool, I accept the ruling. I'm like, great. So they all got stains, but nobody degenerated. And the person, one of the players, the one who's playing the Stephanie Meyer pastiche character, she
Hmm.
has the flaw of vegan where she only eats animal blood. She like won't feed on humans,
Very
and
Edward
so
Cullen.
yeah, but it's led to a lot of like I won't repeat it on the podcast in case somebody has a thing about like animal harms, but like the
Hmm.
dog population of Galveston is going way downhill, and a lot
Thankfully,
of
all dogs go to heaven.
somebody said that like after she was like weeping at what she had done.
Yeah.
One was like, don't worry, Hillary, all dogs go to heaven.
Mm. So the better place to. Anyways, let's move on from that one. That bums
Okay.
me.
Yeah, so
More than the humans die for some reason. Wow.
uh,
What a culture we've grown up in.
yeah, Burt Reynolds. Anyway.
It just it makes me think of the first John Wick movie, the only one I saw, because like great movie, but I get it. I'm good. Uh, you can't just kill a girlfriend or a wife anymore, like was the standard for decades in action films to put the manly hero on his quest. Now you got to take the dog out. No,
That
that's how
was
you know they're
given to
really
him
bad
by
guys.
the dead wife. So it's like,
They doubled up.
extra unearned pathos.
I would love to do a re-edit though, where instead of the classic like murdered wife under the sheets, in the old videos or flashbacks, it's the dog. Maybe they did that and I just forgot or missed it in the sequels, but
Yeah, I don't think they did. The dog, I don't think played much of a role in the later movies. I can't remember the
just
dog being,
tossing them
crucial to
into the
John Wick
air.
4 or whatever. So, well, yeah, so that's it. Just vampire really, really having fun, and having a system where like I'm less sure of the mechanics,
Hmm.
and the mechanics I think do have more narrative,
Yeah, the
traction.
pathos is built into the dice. It's very
Yeah,
good.
I'm just like, oh, please roll some dice. Please messy critical. Please messy critical. Or every time one of the hunger die comes up with the skull with the fangs, everyone's like, oh no. I'm like, guys, that only matters if you get no successes. But it's gonna happen soon, and I can't wait. So yeah, that's me. Just vampire. And I've been reading Mech Warrior Destiny. Are you
Okay.
familiar?
No, I mean I know what Mech Warrior is, but
So you know Shadowrun Anarchy
again, aware of it in the general sense.
or Cosmic Patrol? It's a very like rules lighter,
Hmm.
like story driven, like game for Shadowrun Anarchy, Shadowrun Mech Warrior Destiny as Mech Warrior. And so like the thing is I'm really intrigued by it. And I've done one Shadowrun Anarchy game a long time ago, but like I love the Mech Warrior universe and I'm like, I like a mech game. So hey, maybe that'll be on the table someday soon. But what's interesting about it is you I think it's called the queue system. You take narrations, like we go around the table, like the game mother sets up the scene and then the next person narrates like what their player's doing and what the environment's like, and they can introduce NPCs or add complications.
That's awesome.
So I feel like it would take a special, like it takes a special kind of player to be like, and I open the door and there's three guards sitting there
Right.
playing cards. Like it takes a special kind of player to do that, because if you've been trained on D&D, you're like, I'm not going to make it harder for
Yeah,
myself.
yeah. As much as I love my all of my play groups, it is refreshing to have players that have been brought up with more modern expectations
Yeah.
for like, go ahead, make it interesting. Like I'm here for it, as opposed to like, let me get my 10-foot pole out.
Yeah,
Let's not take any risks. Let's
I'm gonna run a
make this
full
as boring as
sensor
we can.
sweep before I walk over this
Yeah,
rise, where the game is designed to be like, I walk over this rise and there's a lance of enemy mechs.
yeah. I find
Oh,
myself in
okay.
those groups often like I'm not out to get you. We're just trying to make things interesting and have a good time here, you know.
Yep.
Death is merely the beginning, you know. So even if you do get wiped out,
Yeah.
we'll
Well,
continue in
now we get to
hell.
play in hell. Better to play in hell than have your character
I
survive the first gaming session.
exactly.
Well, speaking of not surviving, you picked our topic for tonight,
Hmm.
and the spreadsheet said terrain, the third army. Care to elaborate?
So that's a quote from, I believe, Warhammer podcast, The Independent Characters.
Okay.
They used to say that a lot back in the day because how you use the terrain in that war game, you know, can determine victory or loss. And discussions of terrain in war games back then often brought up the phrase planet bowling ball, where your combat's happening on what might as well be a bare surface, right? Which is kind of boring, you know? And it makes the whole thing a lot like, well, my guys have really good guns, so I'm going to win. Or my guys are so fast, it doesn't matter what kind of guns you have, they're going to come up and hit you with a chain axe. So I think that probably is applicable to role playing games as well. And I'm sure I'm not the first person to be like, hey, make terrain in your combats more interesting. I'm sure I've read a dozen articles and seen many videos on the subject. But it's something I like to think about because I feel like I constantly make fights where the stakes are high, the villains are interesting, and we're often even in a cool place. But then it might as well be Planet Bowling Ball for all the terrain has to do with it, unless on the rare occasion I remember to go out of my way to think of things. So does that make relate to you at all? Have you had that experience of like what's even in this room or in this area that the combat's happening?
Yeah, that's the area where I think I have really bad instincts from maybe my 3.5 days of being like, let's get the grid. And this part is
Hmm.
difficult terrain. So your movement's there. And then I, never take advantage of having the enemies position themselves on the other side of the difficult terrain or whatever. So, like, do you have any general tips or principles?
Man, you know, I feel like I have over the years worked on this, but I keep forgetting, you know, so it's something that I have to think about regularly. I'll tell you, in my fourth edition campaign, they ended up in an ancient elven forest with massive trees, you know, leaves that you could build a town on. And when they were attacked by hostile drow, the fact that they were never more than 20 feet from a very, very, very long fall suddenly became very relevant with the
Nice.
push action.
Nice.
And so, you know, if I was going to, in fact, I should be typing this down. How about a pit or spikes or lava? Like you need some sort of thing that is potentially damaging or threatening to either side. You know, exposed power core, something to spark the imagination of the players, something to help them. Oh yeah, that was the combat where I used some fourth edition tools to lower the difficulty or the level of the drow they were fighting. but that tool did not lower the coup de grace damage that they did.
Ooh,
And so technically someone got straight up murdered because one particular, dice roll of damage did not get reduced to be appropriate for their level.
yeah. There's I think it's one of the Kevin Crawford games that like this is an area where I feel like D&D 5e, the way it's written, not to say that you can't do it in 5e, but there's a little bit of a disservice because there's not really a whole lot of advice in like how to run the games or maybe in like a lot of the published adventures for how to do this effectively. And like this is one of those situations where like I think a simpler rule system where the answer isn't on your character sheet, to quote an
Hmm.
OSR maxim, really helps. Like there was a thing about like it was one of the Kevin Crawford games. It's just like, hey, really, just to simplify it, like if someone wants to use their attack action to push someone into the fireplace, just have them make an attack roll and just roll the weapon's damage for it. Or if their goal is to knock someone down so they lose their movement, just have them make the attack roll and then that person loses their next turn. And like
Yeah.
just with that simplification of not having to worry about difficult terrain or whatever,
Hmm.
um, I think can really help you get in a mind space to do that a little bit more often. Maddie is actually really good at this. We had to stop on Sunday in the middle of a fight, but like my character, the artificer, like saw a guy in trouble hanging from a log over a ravine, and I like ran out to help him. He's like, "Go back! Don't you see them?" And we're like, "See what?" Like we all failed our perception checks. Like Maddie let me make one with advantage the second time when I got closer. So we got ambushed by twig blights, and I'm now standing above like a 40-foot drop into a ravine, like on this log, uh,
Yeah.
with twig blights on either side of me and everyone else back on land. And I'm like, terrain is really important for me
Yeah.
right
And
now.
that's perfect. I mean, put a big drop, put a pit, that's, I feel like the go-to, or it should be. Like, worst case scenario, there's a big hole to interact with or to fear.
Yep. I think also too, like having interaction, like if you have a little skill challenge, like interactable terrain, like a bridge you can raise or lower, or, a
Hmm.
section of the room where a trap is going off and you can get across it to reach the switch or push someone into it. Those are all basic ideas um, that I find really interesting and need to do more, especially after talking about this with you.
Right. So, in your Dragonlance campaign, what kind of environment do you anticipate the next combat happening in?
So the next combat is a city street. And hopefully, yeah, this won't come out before we play that session. And they're going to be running around as the siege is kicking off, and a death
Hmm.
dragon's going to drop out of the sky off the temple and like attack them in the middle of this city street. So that's my basics. I've got a city street with its
Yeah.
width. I've got buildings on either side. What should I do, Chris? What should I do?
Can we put a hole in the street?
Yes.
Do they have a sewer system or
Yes, I'm
perhaps an
sure they
opening
do.
to a cellar?
Yeah, no, the sewer system runs under the city and out into the harbor because it's a
I could
medieval city
see
that's been there a while.
someone diving for cover or pushing a bystander down into a slightly less dangerous hole than the ones we were talking about before.
Hmm.
There's the classic, food stalls and carts full of barrels. Like I don't. It's something I need to put at the top of my notes section for the interesting locations or the potential encounters. Whenever I list one, I need to go down and list what are three things. We just hit what, three or four right there
Hmm.
without too much trouble.
Oh, there's a Dragonlance
Rooftops that
thing
are
about
reachable.
from the novels about dwarven spirits being incredibly strong, and Flint Fireforge, the hill dwarf, is a big fan of the dwarven spirits. Uh, so I think someone was carrying a cart of dwarven spirits that,
Oh yeah,
being highly, highly potent alcohol, basically Everclear, I'm sure is
yeah.
pretty explosive. So I'll just have that in
There
there.
you go. They could even be painted red if they need an extra hint.
Yeah, big red X's on it, and maybe like an X through a fire. Like, don't bring this close to fire.
Yeah, I try to I try to remember to explicitly tell my players that they can add things to scenes, and that again is a thing where people have played more modern games or started more recently following the demonstration of some of these very creative people that we can watch in live plays, which I know you love, actual plays. They're a little more comfortable adding things to scenes,
Hmm.
you know, but just remembering to be like, is there anything you might see in this environment that you could think of that might be here? Because if you want to swing on a chandelier, for the love of God, there's a chandelier in that room.
Oh yeah. You want to swing on something? There was a, like a warehouse building right next to you that has the pulley rope still hanging
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
So,
There's a crane for a construction site that's still set up over there, with all kinds of fun pulleys and ropes.
yep. I think I'm going to start the combat off with being like, all right, roll initiative and then be like, what do you see nearby that could be used
Oh,
as
yeah.
cover? You know, what do you guys see nearby that could escalate the situation? And I
Yeah.
also plan to have like tail swipes take out the front of buildings and like
Oh, yeah.
bystanders
Creating piles of rubble and such.
panicking. So it's not just like go stand in the middle of the street, endure the dragon's breath, and wail on it while it sponges up hit points.
Yeah. If this city is expecting a siege or enemies, then they may have built up fortifications in the streets and things,
Yeah.
rolled some wagons, built some palisades, that kind of fun thing.
Yeah, there's a ballista that's like over, that was being transported to the walls when the dragon struck. And
Yeah.
if they can get there, they can make a strength athletics check to turn the ballista that
Oh,
is
yeah.
not mounted on there. And then, I'll give it some big damage. Although our fighter does have a pike dragon lance, which does like 46 extra damage to dragons. So
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily worried, but like if I can get some cool interactable stuff.
Well, the dragon flying by might be challenging to pike, even if you have an enchanted pike. So anything they can do to set that up,
There's a
some
big
convenient
FU.
cargo netting that can be tossed up.
There's a big FU from the villain as well, that there's like a note from him stabbed into the breastbone with a dagger in case they live to be like, I'm watching you.
That's awesome.
I did this whole thing with a dragon, undead dragon, just to get in your head.
I was rereading Traveler Combat Rules on my lunch break today, and you can always take reactions in that game to anybody shooting at you and or attacking you in any way. And one of them is to basically dive for cover, which in my experience doing things like playing paintball, like very real. Like
Yeah.
one of the reasons I don't do it so much now that I'm a little older is like throwing myself at the ground, so I don't get hit with basically a bath bead. I'm less inclined to do that now. But
Yeah, the ground don't miss.
and in a game system like Traveler, where when you get shot or take damage, your actual physical stats are reduced, which means your modifiers that you're adding to your dice rolls get reduced. Taking for cover is like highly encouraged. So I cannot put them on Planet Bowling Ball in a gunfight, or I won't have an adventuring party or a traveling party for much longer.
Yeah. What's interesting is I've only like terrain beyond combat is like a thing that I think also spices up like a social encounters, like
Yes.
sets mood, because like we had a scene before this warehouse thing where they had to go to this like like rundown Catholic church where the Church of Cain was meeting, and so I was like, well, I'm going to describe that church from The Crow, like
Yes.
because why not? And they go in and it's like all lit by candles, and like I'm just like, yeah, so that is also I think a way that terrain influences your game. This is like set dressing, but
Yeah,
it's
that's
a
an excellent point.
gothic horror storytelling game. So I gotta have like the moon, silhouetting the crumbling
Hmm.
steeple, and like a couple bats are visible in the street lights swarming around because
Yeah, you could
vampires.
definitely say old church,
Hmm.
or you could say an old Catholic church. It still has most of the stained glass windows intact. And as you approach, there's a slight flickering of a soft light on the other side of them. And then they walk in, candles, moonlight through the room. Like, yeah, that sets the stage. And it gives them things, even if there's not a fight, like maybe, oh, I'm going to take them aside to, I don't know, the vestry, what's a part of a church,
Yeah.
to have a private discussion with this person, or like there's a graveyard, there's flowers in front of the well, I'm trying to impress this person, I'm gonna swipe a bouquet from one of these graves and hand it to them.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it was really cool to watch because like I just like, I hadn't planned on going full narrative, but I'm like, I'm gonna do every horror movie gothic trope in my description on this part, but I'm gonna, as Maddie likes to do, keep it brief.
Yeah.
And I did, and they all just got like real, like I was like, ah, okay, like I'm just gonna do
Yeah.
this for everything. So then I was trying to do it with the warehouse, with like the pools of shadow and the clang of a door that's open somewhere blowing in
Yeah.
the wind and
That's
the
awesome.
coppery tang of rusted iron. Is
That's a
it
thing where I
rusted
feel
iron?
like sometimes the scene is fully rendered in my mind, and so I can't help but describe those things. And other things, it's kind of like a throwaway NPC. It's like, yeah, your new starship is in a dock, a space dock, a berth. What about it? We're gonna leave here. It's not important. But I could probably explain a lot to them about the place they're in and their options if I had planned ahead a little bit. So again, on my notes, I probably need to list at least three things that are descriptive or evocative that might feed into something.
Yeah, that I mean the advice about hitting more than one sense, like if you get your
Hmm.
list of three and being like, give them a smell, or a sound, like just yeah, terrain for storytelling as well.
Yeah.
So cool. Well, full disclosure, Jonty Mantis fans, I'm a cheapskate and don't pay for Zoom. And so our meeting time is just about over. So this might be a brief one tonight. Maddie will be happy we kept it brief. Any closing thoughts on terrain? I think, like make that list beforehand.
Hmm.
Three senses, use a pit.
Yeah. And so I was specifically thinking, anticipating a space chase in my next traveler session. Like,
Oh, cool.
I mean, what terrain is there in space? It can't always be asteroids. We can't always Empire Strikes Back it. So maybe there is a very distributed series of, cargo vessels or segments chained together that they could weave in and out of or use for cover, from their pursuers. And then at their destination, when you get far enough from the gravity of a planet, there's going to be other people there potentially
Yep.
preparing to jump. So perhaps there's a mega cargo vessel being loaded, something that they could fly in and out of with a vessel of their size. So,
One thing I always thought was super cool, and Eve Online was real good at doing this, and so was like TIE Fighter, is like the orbital cargo field of
oh
like
yeah,
cargo containers in rows waiting to
yeah,
be picked up, just floating in space in like a three-dimensional grid. And so
that's awesome.
asteroids, but not asteroids.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Eve because with one of the players doing so much cargo table perusing, I did bring up that Eve is like space spreadsheets and
Hmm.
Travelers, the tabletop version of that at times,
Yeah, now that
but
I
in a
work in
fun way.
spreadsheets, should I try Eve again?
Better you than me.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Cool. Well, Chris, thanks for talking to me briefly about terrain. I hope you all found the advice practical.
Always a pleasure.
If you like what you saw, go ahead and leave us a review or comment below. Any interaction helps us out and gets this before more eyes. If you have a cool idea for terrain, leave it in the comments below or
Please
email us at jauntymantis@gmail.com. Until next time, get out there and stumble into a pit or don't.
do it. It's fun.